The protagonist of our story, Kaku, eats the fried meat, savoring each bite. But this isn't just any meat. It's from a legendary thunder dragon he hunted single-handedly. To understand his story, one must dive a little deeper. It's the year 1013 of the Holy Calendar, and the month is June. The Western Kingdom rules this land, and within it lies a peaceful village named Joan, known for its friendly people. As Kaku enters, his eyes fall on the village guard, who looks weak from hunger. The old man welcomes him with a smile. Kaku, amused, teases him about still being alive. The old man replies with a grin that even death's probably waiting for him to retire first. He then laughs and insists he's still energetic. Kaku tries to hand him the entrance fee, but he refuses, telling the lad to consider himself a part of the village now. Kaku doesn't agree. He takes rules as seriously as promises and always honors his word. Once inside, Kaku treats everyone to a feast, preparing fried meat for all. The villagers enjoy the meal immensely as he proudly announces it's his treat. Nothing says blend in like casually feeding a whole village mythical meat. Arnaud, a local, asks if Kaku truly plans to share such high-quality meat with everyone. Kaku confirms confidently, revealing the meat came from a dragon he hunted. The villagers burst out laughing, thinking he's joking. They tell him no one has ever managed to hunt the legendary thunder dragon. Just then, Arnaud's daughter Alma arrives, firmly defending Kaku, saying he never lies. Which is true, he lies only when absolutely necessary, like taxes. Kaku smiles, feeling supported only by her, while Arnaud jokingly claims that Alma must like his ridiculous grinning face and wild hairstyle. Joyce, Arnaud's wife, adds that they should believe Kaku. He's rich enough to afford such high-quality meat. The crowd laughs again, now at Arnaud, and everyone returns to enjoying their drinks. The old guard, now tipsy with joy, declares he'll marry off his granddaughter to Kaku. Laughing, Kaku playfully says they should ask for his consent first. The celebration continues into the night. Arnaud offers Kaku to stay over, and both Kaku and Alma look genuinely happy. But the mood shifts when Joyce, who's pregnant, feels pain and Arnaud rushes to her side. Amid this, Kaku inquires about the baby. Joyce, smiling, credits the energy of the baby to the nutritious meat he provided and mentions she's in her final month of pregnancy. Alma's eyes light up with happiness. Kaku thoughtfully shares that he plans to return to the village next month. Hearing this, the family is delighted. Later, in the quiet of his room, he lies down, completely exhausted. It feels miraculous to him to be living such a normal life. Long ago, he had lost his first life in Japan, and because of his misdeeds, he was cast into hell, reborn as a demon. His time in hell was horrifying, always near death, constantly surrounded by high-ranking demons. The chaos stemmed from the strained relationship between Satan and Zeus, leading to endless wars he had no choice but to witness. Normal life felt like a fantasy then. Honestly, it was less divine war and more mythological family therapy gone wrong. But somehow he survived 2 long years in hell using wisdom and wit. Eventually, a great war in hell reached a dangerous peak. Both opposing forces prepared for all-out battle, and a massive surge of supernatural energy was released. Amid the chaos, Kaku found a chance to escape. At first he thought he had died, but when he awoke, he realized he was in a completely new world. Understanding this new reality took time. He disguised himself as a human and pretended to be an amnesiac. Slowly, he learned the language and began to enjoy life again. To him, this peaceful life feels like a reward for surviving hell. Hell had screaming demons. This place has gossiping Monties. Same energy, fewer horns. He can now eat good food and sleep peacefully. And yet, his hellish experience still serves him well, making him incredibly strong in this world. Lost in thought, he suddenly leaps from his bed and bursts into evil laughter, declaring to himself that it would be a crime not to enjoy this new life. Which would be ironic, coming from someone who's technically committed multiple war crimes in hell. But he doesn't realize Alma has heard everything. She had just come to his room to drop something off. For a brief second, an awkward silence settles between Kaku and Alma. Breaking it, he asks what he can do for her. Alma responds that she came to give him some water and hesitantly adds that she brought a pair of gloves for him as well. Embarrassment colors her cheeks as she admits she made them herself, having learned the technique by observing her father. She explains she doesn't want his hands to get damaged while steering the horse. Kaku slides the gloves on and notes how perfectly they fit. Alma beams with joy, thanks him softly, and she blurts out, almost as if possessed by sudden courage, that it's for his future husband. The moment she says it, she panics and flees the room. Kaku calls out good night after her, then gazes down at the gloves. As Alma walks down the stairs, she is overwhelmed with happiness. Meanwhile, Kaku lies on his bed, reflecting. He thinks to himself that he is a demon, he doesn't need gloves, and he certainly doesn't want to get married. He doesn't desire a family. With these thoughts, he falls asleep, reminded once again that demons don't age. Morning sunlight spills over the peaceful village. During breakfast, Arnaud invites Kaku to join him for a fishing trip after the meal. Later, as they fish together, Arnaud glances at the gloves Kaku is wearing and immediately recognizes them as the ones his daughter made. With mock jealousy, he shouts that he'll never get his daughter away to him. This is how men bond, by yelling at each other while holding slippery fish. Kaku, unbothered, replies that there's no need to say it, he already knows. Arnaud gets closer, yelling again, demanding what Kaku just said about his daughter. Kaku shouts back that he'll never become Arnaud's son-in-law. The two continue bickering playfully, teasing one another. Curious, Kaku asks what Alma even sees in him. Arnaud muses that perhaps it's because Kaku once saved her life. Kaku struggles to remember any such incident. He blinks once he saved a cat from a tree. Maybe that counts. Arnaud explains that Alma has always been a weak child, though her energy often hides that fact. Many believed she wouldn't live past 10. But 1.5 years ago, when Kaku first arrived with some meat and spices, things changed. After consuming those, Alma's health began to improve drastically, and now she stands healthy before them. Arnaud admits he was initially unsure about trusting someone with an unknown background who didn't even speak their language, but now he is grateful. The whole village appreciates Kaku for all he's done. As he reflects on how kind and thankful everyone has been, Arnaud suddenly catches a fish and triumphantly announces that they're back on topic. Holding the fish, he mentions that he received a draft notice from the council. He's going to join the army. Shocked, Kaku asks why it's so sudden. Arnaud explains that it isn't sudden at all. He's a reserve soldier, and with increased demon activity, the kingdom needs him now. Kaku is stunned by Arnaud's words. Unaware of Kaku's true nature as a demon, Arnaud entrusts him with a heartfelt request to take care of Alma and Ars if anything happens to him. Kaku asks who Ars is. Arnaud smiles and mentions that it's the name of his unborn son. Kaku is surprised again, asking how Arnaud knows it's a boy. Arnaud replies with full certainty. He knows that this one gonna be a boy for sure. Here Arnaud has fatherly intuition of 40% gut feeling, 60% sheer confidence. He then adds that his own father was devoured by a demon, and no one knows what the future holds. When Kaku questions why Arnaud trusts him so much, Arnaud says simply that he believes Kaku is the right person to be family. Eventually, they return to the village, where the villagers help Kaku prepare his carriage for the journey ahead. He tells everyone he'll be back within a month. Before leaving, he gives Alma a dragon scale necklace as a thank you gift for the gloves. Alma's eyes shine as she receives it, and Kaku sets off. Soon, he arrives in a nearby city and enjoys trading and spending time there. Afterward, he returns to his magical territory, Valemark. A month passes and July begins. Now in the royal capital of the kingdom, Kaku strolls through the bustling streets, receiving congratulations as his merchant rank increases. While passing by an outfit shop, a lady shows him a sleek black suit. He tries it on, and during your conversation, he casually mentions that he's from a village. At this, the lady suddenly warns him to be careful. Holy Knights are currently on an expedition in that area. Curious, Kaku asks why. The woman tells him that the church has recently provided the knights with special symbols that can detect demonic traces, and now those same knights are heading toward his village. She says it like someone casually mentioning that there's a cobra in the backyard. Hearing this, Kaku is stunned. His thoughts spiral. Are the knights using their power to falsely accuse innocent villagers? Are they taking advantage of ordinary people? When the woman turns to finish her explanation, she finds that Kaku has vanished. After stepping out of the shop, Kaku immediately uses a magic spell to erase his footprints. He reminds himself that using teleportation magic in a public area is risky, but time is against him. A strange and dreadful feeling presses on his chest. Without wasting a second, he heads directly toward the village. As he reaches the hill overlooking the village, he suddenly halts. Thick smoke rises from within the village, and his body freezes. His skin turns pale as something completely unexpected grips his eyes. His mind rejects the thought. It must be an illusion, a trick. Maybe it's just dry grass burning, he tells himself. The chimneys of this village often emit large plumes of smoke anyway. Forcing himself to stay calm, He imagines everything will be fine. But when he arrives at the entrance, his heart drops. Nothing is fine. The village lies in ruins. Bodies are scattered everywhere. Fires blaze violently. People are dying in front of his eyes, screaming, burning alive. Kaku stands paralyzed, unable to do anything. The horror overwhelms him until he breaks down, screaming in pain. Even hell hadn't prepared him for this brand of heartbreak. He shouts the names of everyone he knows, but no one responds. He sees Arnaud, Jewess, Alma, and many others lying lifeless on the ground. Rushing to Alma, he cradles her body in his arms, asking desperately who did this. But she's already gone. Her lips remain sealed in death. Kaku screams again, begging someone, anyone, to tell him who's behind this massacre. In a surge of agony, he activates his devil eye magic. Now the souls of the dead become visible to him, rising gently from their burned-out bodies. Through the echoes of their last moments, he sees a grim flashback. The villagers try to explain to the knights that they know nothing about any demon. The knights accuse them, demanding proof of where the dragon meat came from. Only a demon could hunt such a creature. Then, labeling the villagers as servants of a demon, the knights order their execution. Seeing all this, Kaku shudders. His people gave up their lives to protect his identity. Once again, he has failed to save anyone. Why is this world so cruel? His rage boils. He loses control. Gripping onto the last traces of the knight's souls through his magic, he locates them instantly. Using black magic, he conjures a massive fireball. Without hesitation, he hurls it into the sky, aiming directly at the distant location of the knights. The fireball burns with such intensity that it lights up the sky, so bright that even the royal palace far away can see it. People across the kingdom gaze up at the blinding light. Meanwhile, the knights sense something approaching. One of them reports that they're being tracked, but before they can react, the fireball crashes down. A thunderous explosion follows. Its force is so immense that even daylight seems to vanish into darkness. But deep inside, Kaku burns in a different kind of pain. He's lost too much. Hell had already scared him. Starvation, constant war, betrayal, manipulation. He was forced to consume both flesh and souls to survive. Over time, even his own soul had transformed into that of a demon. When he first arrived in this village, his original purpose was to kill. But the kindness of these gentle villagers had turned his hatred into hope. They accepted him, treated him like one of their own. For the first time, he felt happiness. Ate real food, he smiled, but now it's all been torn away. Fury burns anew. He curses Satan, blaming him for ruining his life. But in that moment of emotional collapse, a dark soul approaches. It coils around him, whispering that he must destroy everything. It tries to convince him that destruction is his purpose. He is a devil after all. The voice awakens something deep within him. His true demon self rises. Standing tall, he lets out a deafening roar that echoes across the land. But just as he prepares to lose himself, Alma's soul appears and grabs him. He stops. Kaku tells her that he can't stop now. What happened was wrong. This world deserves to burn. Destruction is in his nature. But she refuses to let go, holding on stubbornly. He kneels beside her, breaking down. He confesses that he's lost everything. These villagers were like family to him. As he tries to continue, Alma hugs him tightly. Slowly, her embrace begins to calm him. His rage fades. He starts to recover from his demon state. Then something catches his attention, a wooden chest lying nearby. He approaches it cautiously. As he gets closer, he hears a sound coming from inside. Opening it, he finds a baby boy, alive. Around the child's neck is the same necklace Kaku once gave to Alma. The necklace glints, as if saying, "Surprise. You're a dad now." At that moment, memories rush back. He recalls the conversations with Jewess about his child. Arnaud had once said that if it were a boy, he would name him Ars. Now crying, Kaku pulls the child into his arms and holds him close. Softly he begins calling him by that name, Ars. Raising him toward the sky, Kaku makes a solemn oath. From this moment onward, Kaku the demon accepts Ars as his own son. He promises to raise him as the happiest person in the world. Though he never gave Arnaud a promise back then, he now does so with all his heart. Far above in the sky, within the realm between earth and hell, two opposing powers play chess. Each blames the other for sending Kaku into this world. They remain curious about his life, but Satan is informed that these villagers, and even Kaku, will eventually be burned in hell, and so the fate of Kaku is sealed. Because the same child he has chosen to call his son will one day be the one who kills him, And now a strange journey begins, one between a demon and the very child destined to end him. Inside the demon realm's central territory, deep within the grand palace of the demon emperor, the servant Theokia stands before the Decon Lord. With a bowed head, he announces that he brings crucial news for his majesty. Calm yet urgent, he reports the aftermath of a powerful fire spell cast in the human realm, how it incinerates and annihilates an entire squad of holy knights. Every detail of the incident is delivered with precision. As the news settles in the chamber, Demon Lord Zelm Nalkinos Lucifer raises his eyes in surprise. He remarks that the spellcaster who executed such a devastating technique must either match his own power or exceed it. The moment these words leave his lips, silence spreads across the palace. Everyone is stunned. Theokia then shares that it was the subordinates of the insect lord who informed him about the fire spell's location. They have already deployed an investigation unit to examine the site, but Lord Lucifer narrows his eyes and firmly instructs Theokia not to involve the insect lord in this matter, citing the latter's poor past record. Theokia nods and respectfully notes the instruction. Standing nearby, the demon lord's son, Hades, watches closely. He expresses his willingness to investigate the incident himself if his father allows it. Before he finishes speaking, his sister lightly scolds him, reminding him to address their father as Your Majesty in the royal court. Even demons know sibling scolding hits harder than any blade. Lord Lucifer listens, but his thoughts drift elsewhere. He reflects on how this mysterious spellcaster keeps their presence hidden in the demon realm, using magic to erase every trace after stepping out into the world. The precision and secrecy trouble him. If this being can ambush and eliminate holy knights with ease, they are clearly a threat, even to him. He vows to make this person fall into his own hands someday. Meanwhile, in the human realm, within the heart of Kalamura Church Nation, a grand celebration erupts across the royal palace. After many years, a daughter has been born into the royal family, and the people hail her as the new saint. The 58th Pop himself stands at her side. With a gentle voice, he tells the infant princess that although he grieves the loss of his knights, her birth brings blessings to their home. According to legends, this was foretold. The knight commander, standing nearby, proudly notes how the masses are celebrating her arrival. This is a day of joy, a rare and precious moment that renews hope for their kingdom. He adds that for now, they must set aside political matters and focus entirely on the saint's celebration. The knight commander stands proud, secretly wondering if this counts as a paid day off. Yet suddenly, the Pop's expression shifts. In a serious tone, he alerts everyone that danger is approaching the human realm. Still, he reassures them, there is no need to worry. He believes this child will one day guide a true hero. Even during divine prophecies, the Pop knows how to keep the crowd emotionally manipulated. With that, the atmosphere lifts again, and the celebrations continue. If one views the world's layout from above, the structure becomes clear. The entire world is balanced upon a vast world tree. The highest layer is the heaven realm, the middle is the human realm, and the lowest is the demon realm. Within the human realm, across one of its continents in a quiet village, Kaku now lives. From above, the world tree resembles a multi-story cake of divine drama and poor boundary enforcement. Months have passed since he adopted Arz. He takes care of the boy diligently. Daily he teleports a few goats nearby to obtain fresh milk. Thankfully, Arz is healthy and growing, but perhaps a little too energetic. Kaku constantly wonders if human babies are truly meant to have this much stamina. He discovers human infants are like tiny, unpredictable weather systems with more noise. More than anything, Kaku struggles with calming Arz whenever he cries. He quickly learns that hunger is usually the reason behind it. As soon as he realizes this, he warms goat milk and pours it into a feeder. He has trained himself to prepare it with care, adjusting temperature and quantity. But Arz doesn't like the taste. The moment he drinks it, he spits it out, letting the milk drip from his mouth. Arz rejects goat milk like a food critic with very high standards and zero mercy. Kaku quickly figures out the problem. Goat milk has a slightly different flavor than normal, so he tries refining it and offers the bottle again. Still, Arz reacts the same way. Now Kaku starts to feel the pressure. He struggles, but he doesn't quit. Motivating himself, he returns to the task, determined to figure it out. In truth, Kaku has no experience raising children. At this moment, he starts to believe Dad stands for desperately attempting daily survival. This is all new to him, and yet, compared to the hardships he faced in hell, starvation, war, betrayal, he finds that raising Arz might be the hardest challenge of all. He acknowledges to himself that he underestimated the effort it would take. Despite surviving in hell using clever tricks and strength, none of that prepared him for parenthood. But now, this challenge hits him harder than any demon ever has. He once survived a siege by eating lava bugs. But this is worse. Kaku tries every possible way to keep little Ars happy. From cleaning the house to using spells to lull him to sleep, he puts in effort beyond reason. He understands that raising a child without a mother is a challenge of its own. Yet whenever he sees Ars peacefully sleeping, the child's angelic face brings a rare smile even to a demon. Kaku feels as if his own exhaustion fades just by watching him. He imagines Arnaud and Juiz must have wished for something similar. Lost in thought, he nearly falls asleep himself, but snaps his eyes open at the last second, reminding himself that since Ars is sleeping, it's the perfect time to get other tasks done. With a wave of his hand, he uses magic spells to complete the chores, washing, chopping wood, tending livestock. But during farming, the heat overwhelms him, and he pauses to gaze up at the sky. At this point, a look at Kaku's home becomes essential. After erasing his traces from the Holy Night incident, he relocated to a distant region within the Elven Federal Kingdom. His new home is actually a renovated ancient elven fortress, now semi-submerged underground. He lives in a cool, temperature-controlled room with Ars. The location is carefully chosen, far from human settlements, hidden away for safety. Around the area, Kaku sets up magical barriers to prevent detection by those with heightened senses. He recalls how in hell, homes were built and destroyed the next day. Compared to that, this place feels like a blessing. He even entertains the thought of expanding the place into a castle, but quickly dismisses it. He briefly considers summoning a dragon maid, then remembers how that ended last time. He knows being too flashy would risk exposure. For now, this is his dream home, the one he's waited years for. Then, without warning, a bolt of lightning tears through the roof, jolting Kaku into a panic. The bolt of lightning is so random, even the weather spirits file a complaint. He races inside, terrified for Ars, only to find the child giggling and playing, completely unharmed. Relief and surprise wash over him. He notices a smoldering hole in the ceiling and wonders if this is the work of a demon or beast, because the weather is perfectly clear. While he's still assessing the situation, Ars suddenly sneezes. Kaku barely reacts in time as a burst of fire shoots from the child's mouth and scorches his face, leaving it blackened like coal. Some babies spit up milk. Ars spits fire. Kaku is adjusting and stunned. He realizes this child isn't ordinary. He considers the possibilities. Perhaps the people of this world can naturally use minor magic, but Ars' abilities are on a different level. Then it hits him. It must be the dragon meat. During the time Ars' mother was pregnant, she had eaten the meat Kaku brought back from the village. Ars, being the only child born after such consumption, inherited the latent effects. Kaku now understands why the boy is growing so fast. He has been born with dragon-type magic powers. The weight of this truth hits him hard. Ars now bears a burden of a dangerous inheritance, making it nearly impossible for him to live as a normal human. From this point on, Kaku knows he's the only one the boy can rely on. Determined to manage the chaos, Kaku conjures copies of himself using earth transmutation magic. He names them the mini Kakus, giving them free will and assigning them household tasks. The mini Kakus try their best. Their best is unfortunate. Their efforts only make things worse. Nothing gets done properly, and Kaku ends up constantly correcting them. Eventually, he loses patience, punches them all out of existence, and admits he needs to put in personal effort instead of shortcuts. To motivate himself, he compares child rearing to the harsh work he did in hell and convinces himself that raising one baby should be easier. Letting out a mischievous chuckle, he proudly declares to the cheerful Ars that he, as the boy's dad, will raise him well. However, something begins to stir in the shadows. Outside the home, hidden among the bushes, a group of goblins watches silently. Time passes quickly. 2 exhausting weeks go by. Kaku hasn't had proper sleep, and he's overwhelmed. Between feeding, cleaning up after poop, constant crying, and Ars' new habit of escaping, his patience wears thin. He doesn't even find time to repair the damaged roof. Worse, Ars becomes unnaturally energetic. Explosions, water cannons, and electric shocks have become part of the daily routine. The daily explosions make Kaku wonder if he's raising a baby or housing a military project. While reflecting on everything, fatigue hits him like a brick. All he wants now is to sleep. He sits beside Erza after putting him to sleep, quietly watching the child's peaceful face. Gradually his own eyes begin to close, and he drifts into sleep as well. In his dream, fragments of his past life return. He sees himself pleading with his father not to transfer him to another school, but his father remains helpless due to work commitments. In his dream, he negotiates like a dramatic teen protagonist, and loses like one too. Young lad, unwilling to accept the move, decides to find a way to earn and stay near his school on his own. His mother tries to reason with him, explaining that his father is making sacrifices for his sake, but he remains firm. He wants to carve his own path, believing he never asked for their efforts or interference. Despite their attempts to make him understand, the distance between them remains. The scene shifts into a rare happy family moment, laughter and warmth surrounding a dinner table, but the dream soon begins to fade. A strange unease creeps in. Suddenly, Kaku senses something wrong. In an instant, he realizes that goblins are attacking from behind. He narrowly dodges their swords and retaliates, swiftly cutting through them in a short but intense fight. As the last goblin falls, he wonders how they got this far in. Confusion floods him. How long was he asleep? He glances around frantically and feels a spike of panic. Ars is gone. A surge of dread grips him. His mind races with the worst possibility. The goblins have taken Ars. Right from under his nose, he bolts out of the house and immediately casts his devil eye spell, tracking the goblin's traces with focused desperation. Exhaustion weighs on him and frustration mounts. He feels his magical barriers are failing him in this moment of need. Pushing through the tension, he sprints toward the forest, repeating to himself that Ars must be safe. Nothing should happen to him. As he nears the forest's edge, his eyes catch an unusual sight. A single elf stands there, clutching a goblin by the throat with one hand and holding Ars protectively in the other. A metal slave collar rests around the elf's own neck. Kaku's breath catches. This isn't an ordinary elf. It's a dark elf. And despite her bound state, she radiates power. She meets Kaku's gaze with a sharp, guarded expression and speaks in a language he doesn't understand. Ars sees Kaku and instinctively reaches out, calling him with a baby-like Dada. Just then, the elf's master approaches. The man explains they were heading toward the holy city when they encountered the goblin with the child. Realizing the danger, the elf saved the baby. He calls the elf by name, Erza, and instructs her to hand over the child. But as she steps forward, Erza hesitates. She eyes Kaku suspiciously and demands proof that he's really the child's father. Her tone sharpens as she questions what a human like him is even doing deep in the forest with a baby. In her view, it's more logical to suspect him of being the kidnapper. Kaku is taken aback. The accusation stings, but it also brings a sharp realization. He truly is the only father figure Ars has now. There's no one else. But the words to explain this escape him. He walks up to Erza and calmly tells her he can't share the details, but this child is more important to him than anything else in the world. As he speaks, his heart begins to glow, a radiant pulse of sincerity. Erza notices it, and her stern expression softens. She apologizes for the questioning, admitting it was natural given the situation. Kaku reassures her that her suspicion is valid. Anyone would do the same in her place. He thanks her for saving his child, but Erza doesn't accept his gratitude. She reminds him that she's just a slave and walks back silently to sit in her cage. Kaku and the others continue on, but his thoughts linger. He had already noticed the slave collar around her neck, but pretended not to. Now, after hearing it from her own mouth, the truth settles heavier. He looks down at Ars and feels the weight of responsibility press deeper into his soul. He knows Ars only has him now, and he can't afford to lose anyone else after what happened to the village. The fear of loss grips him harder than ever. Since that day, he's forced Ars into a lonely life, shielding him from friends, affection, or connections. Maybe that's just what fathers do, protect their children in their own flawed ways. As he glances at the gloves Alma once gave him, he vows that if new people ever become important in their lives, he'll protect them this time, no matter what. He holds Ars close and asks him what he wants. Ars, with a child's innocence, shares a vision, a family, warm and whole. Kaku, touched, understands his son's silent wish, his demon instincts stir, resonating with the dream. He finally admits to himself, Ars needs a mother. And the first face that enters his mind is Erza, because perhaps what they need now is someone who can become part of their family. In the southern stretch of the Elverant Federal Kingdom, near the vast expanse of the Great Forest, a commotion stirs. There is noise, movement, and an odd kind of celebration. A group of individuals, thugs by trade, find themselves overwhelmed with disbelief and excitement. Against all odds, they have stolen dragon eggs. Not just any eggs, but the rare and dangerous fire dragon's eggs. One of the thugs tries to high-five another but misses completely, saying they're gonna be rich, or roasted. Hopefully rich. Yet the danger is far from over. They must escape the forest before the consequences catch up. To create a diversion, the thugs release their 8 combat slaves and 4 S-rank demons, ordering them to distract the dragon and lure it toward the waterfall. Their plan hinges on keeping the dragon busy long enough to secure their escape. The group's leader informs everyone that the eggs will be divided using a 3-to-1 ratio. Some members voice disagreement, stating they will negotiate with their boss before accepting such terms. Before tensions escalate further, one of them spots something terrifying. The fire dragon is free and heading straight for them. They freeze in place like a bad theater troupe caught mid-rehearsal. The beast, in its rage, evaporates the entire waterfall. One thug whispers, saying, "Well, sadly their shower is no more." Now wounded and in pain, the dragon grows even more dangerous. But instead of charging toward the thieves, it turns toward the nearby town. Thanks to a cloaking barrier the thugs cast around themselves, the dragon can't sense their presence. It unleashes its wrath elsewhere. That elsewhere is Port Town, situated 80 kilometers from Kaku's hideout. It's a bustling place beside a river, where merchants travel frequently. On one side lies civilization, and on the other forbidden dragon territory. Port Town, due to its location and traffic, is infamous for slave trading. It's the kind of place where you can buy a sword, a slave, and a secret, all from the same vendor. Kaku arrives at the town with little Ars. He feels nervous. It's been a long time since he's been around this many people. Locals stare at him, their eyes heady with judgment. Kaku begins to suspect that either his robe is too fancy, or his deodorant's too suspicious. Since this is the nearest town, he has no choice but to come here. Despite the discomfort, he is on a mission to buy a reliable slave who can act as a responsible caretaker for Ars. Ever since the kidnapping incident, he has grown uneasy. He doesn't want a spouse, just someone dependable enough to be part of the family and shoulder the responsibility of watching over Ars. The crowd continues to stare, and then he overhears a group of boys whispering and calling him a rich sucker. That's when he realizes he might be dressed too extravagantly. Annoyed, he slips away to a quieter corner, sits down, and exhales. Buying groceries would have been easier. But no, he had to shop for a whole human. This is already proving more overwhelming than he expected. Worse yet, the quality of slaves is disappointing, mostly criminals turned servants. None appeared trustworthy enough to handle a child. One guy even offers to babysit Ars for the low price of Kaku's liver. His thoughts drift to Erza, the elf he encountered earlier. Strong, dependable, and trustworthy. Exactly the kind of person Ars needs, but he missed his chance to buy her, and now regrets start creeping in. The regret hits him harder than a missed sale on enchanted diapers. Still, he knows he can't afford to dwell on them. As he hears Ars laughing nearby, he reminds himself that action, not regret, will get him results. He must stay alert and find someone suitable. Nearby, some townspeople are talking about a famous merchant arriving at the port. For them, this is a rare opportunity. Kaku hears the name and instantly guesses it must be Sebasta. He recalls Louis Sebasta, owner of the Sebasta companies and one of the greatest merchants of this generation. Kaku suddenly yells in excitement, recognizing the merchant, while little Ars happily echoes him. Kaku feels hopeful now. He's certain something useful will come out of this and decides his new goal for the day is to find Sebasta. And if not, at least Sebasta might be selling patience in bulk. Elsewhere, near the Elbat River, Erza sits alone in an abandoned house. Her thoughts are heavy. She reflects on how she, someone who trusts no one, handed over a child so easily. The thought unsettles her. Just then, her master arrives to inform her that their ship is ready. She rises silently and walks with him. Meanwhile, in the marketplace, Kaku runs from an angry merchant who chases him down a narrow alley, shouting insults. This is what he gets for raising a fire-spewing toddler without insurance. Apparently, Ars sneezed and accidentally blew fire across a store, setting it ablaze. Now chaos follows. Kaku knows he can't use teleportation or magic here, not with this many people around. He's trapped, cornered completely. Trying to reason, he offers to pay compensation. But the merchant responds with harsh words. Kaku stands quietly, realizing it's been a long time since someone spoke to him like this. Honestly, it's kind of nostalgic, like a warm slap to the ego. Kaku and the angry merchant are in the middle of a heated argument when chaos erupts in the town. A loud roar pierces the air, and everyone instinctively looks up. Panic spreads like wildfire. People scream and scatter in all directions. A massive fire dragon descends upon the town, releasing waves of heat with every wing beat. One local just mutters that he knew skipping dragon tax would come back to bite them. But it is the same dragon whose eggs were recently stolen. As soon as the dragon locks eyes with Kaku, it lets out a blazing fire breath. Kaku quickly casts a magical barrier around himself and Ars, shielding them from the flames. He grits his teeth in anger, wondering what could have happened if the attack had harmed Ars. His voice trembles with fury as he questions the possibility. Ars, meanwhile, is busy trying to boop the dragon's nose with a stick. He finds it strange that the fire dragon has left the forest and come all the way here. He knows he shouldn't get involved in this matter, but as he looks around the town, now consumed by fire, he falls silent. He stands still, lost in thought, holding Ars close in his arms. He wonders if he really should just turn away and escape. Meanwhile, aboard a boat heading away from town, Erza and the merchant watch the flames rising in the distance. The merchant stares in shock, unable to comprehend how a fire dragon reached the town. He immediately orders his servant to turn the boat around, deciding he has no intention of returning to that burning place. But Erza's eyes stay fixed on the distant chaos. She notices the frightened crowds and the destruction spreading fast. The merchant fails to understand her hesitation, but before he can say more, Erza leaps off the boat and begins running toward the town. The merchant watches her disappear into the distance, muttering under his breath that the girl is completely fearless before he sails away. Inside the town, Kaku clutches Ars and struggles with indecision. He knows that if he engages the dragon, the church might discover his presence, a risk he cannot take, not when Ars could be in danger because of him. He tries to convince himself that choosing not to fight isn't wrong. No one will blame him, he mutters, knowing full well that Ars absolutely will. But as he watches the dragon destroy everything in its path, his inner conflict deepens. Suddenly, a massive enchanted chain crashes into the dragon's foot, wrapping tightly around it. The dragon roars in frustration, struggling against the restraint. A blur races upward along the chain, its Erza, sword in hand, racing straight toward the beast. She leaps, slashes, and strikes, moving swiftly around the dragon, targeting every vulnerable spot she can find. Erza keeps the dragon distracted, dodging flames and retaliating with precise attacks. She begins binding the dragon with reinforced ropes as she fights, using every trick she knows to keep it under control. At last, with a final empowered swing, she slices the dragon's wings straight down the middle. The creature crashes to the ground, unable to fly. From the ground below, Kaku watches in disbelief. Part of him wonders if she eats dragons for breakfast. With tea, he recognizes the elf from the forest. It's the same one. He stares in awe as she stands on a rooftop, keeping her eyes locked on the grounded dragon. Erza wonders how such a beast reached the town, but she knows it must be a result of human interference. She understands that she can't win against the dragon at this rate. Yet seeing people fleeing in terror around her, she chants a blinding spell. The magic strikes true, rendering the dragon temporarily blind. Kaku watches silently as Erza switches to a body-strengthening spell. She launches another barrage of attacks while the dragon is still disoriented. The townspeople are stunned, watching the lone elf take on a fire dragon with relentless courage. Erza pushes herself to the limit, her magic flaring with every swing. But the strengthening spell drains her energy fast, and her movements begin to slow. Kaku realizes that she's simply buying time for the townspeople, sacrificing herself to keep others safe. And here he is, thinking she looked like someone who'd fight over the last cookie. As her magic fades, Erza still refuses to back down. She prepares her next attack when suddenly, the dragon fires a direct blast at her. The flames engulf her. Gasps erupt from the townsfolk, believing their only protector has been defeated. Erza plummets from the sky, landing straight into Kaku's arms. Kaku saves her just in time, cradling her gently. He softly expresses gratitude for saving his son the day before and tells her that he cannot let his son's savior die in front of him. Erza's eyes widen as she finally recognizes Kaku. She struggles to ask what he's doing here, but he explains that there's no time for questions. He asks if she can cast her blinding spell over the entire town. Erza hesitates for a second, confused, but he insists. If she can do it, he just needs a few seconds. Then, without waiting, he hands Ars to her and tells her to keep him safe. He's got a meeting with the dragon to attend. Erza blinks in surprise, unsure what's happening, but something in Kaku's eyes earns her trust. She begins casting the massive blinding spell, even as her body collapses to the ground from weakness. Meanwhile, Kaku walks calmly toward the dragon. Behind him, townspeople whispered to each other, confused as their vision fades. None of them can see clearly anymore, uncertain of what's going on. In the center of it all, Kaku calls out to the dragon. Somewhere in the chaos, Ars claps like he's at a magic show. The beast hears the voice and charges straight toward him. Kaku doesn't flinch. He gathers his magical energy and unleashes a devastating fire spell, one powerful enough to shake the earth. The fire crashes into the dragon, engulfing it completely. The dragon cries out in agony before collapsing, lifeless. Erza, watching from the ground, stares in complete disbelief, her mouth slightly open in shock. Ars, however, laughs cheerfully, having watched his father win the fight with ease. Kaku approaches Erza, says her name softly, and takes her hand. He looks into her eyes and asks if she would consider becoming the mother of his son. Erza freezes stunned. She can't even begin to understand what's happening. Erza blinks twice, muttering that she thinks the dragon hit her harder than she thought. One moment, this man was fighting a dragon, and now he's casually proposing. Meanwhile, the townspeople remain confused and blind, still trying to figure out what just happened. The story shifts to Erza's perspective, going back to a few months earlier. In the magical country of Lurens, within the royal castle, the first prince, Eliad Lurens, summons Erza to his chamber. Erza braces herself. Last time he summoned her, she ended up babysitting his pet peacock and writing 5 haikus about war. Erza, known as the Elf of Dusk Magic, holds a strong reputation in the intelligence department for her loyalty and skill. The prince gives her a special mission, stating that he has received intel about a forbidden magical tool being exchanged soon in the Knight's Quarter. For the safety of the citizens, he tasks Erza with investigating and stopping the exchange herself. She nods like a professional, but mentally adds, if this turns into another royal prank, she will switch sides. Accepting the assignment, Erza sets out and discreetly positions herself in the Knight's Quarter, watching the area from a safe spot. She's crouched in a barrel. It smells like fish and betrayal. She keeps her eyes on every movement until she finally gets the opportunity to strike. She launches an attack, injuring a masked individual and quickly lifting the figure onto her shoulder to bring them back to the castle for interrogation. However, during the journey back, something unexpected happens. The masked person speaks her name, and the voice immediately shocks Erza. It's a voice far too familiar, one she never thought she'd hear in such a context. She removes the mask and sees the unthinkable. It's His Majesty himself. The realization is devastating. Erza's soul leaves her body, writes a resignation letter, and floats into the sun. The scene quickly spirals. Erza is accused of attacking the king, and without a fair chance to explain, is declared a criminal and enslaved. In truth, it's a setup. She insists the prince gave her the mission, but the same prince silences her with a loud rejection, claiming she's speaking nonsense. He says he was away on official travel at the time of the attack, leaving Erza's pleas unheard. She also asks her senior Anisama to investigate the matter himself, but no one believes her. He gives her the same look people give soup after finding a hair in it. Everyone turns a blind eye, and she is dragged away in chains. She considers asking for a receipt. Might need proof when she sues everyone later. Inside the prison, Erza overhears people speaking. They mention that His Majesty is currently in a coma, but they are relieved he's alive. Still, the crowd's demand is clear. They want Erza executed. Sitting alone, Erza reflects in silence. The prince has betrayed her. Everyone has. She trusted them all from the start, and now each of them has played a part in her downfall. The one man she saw as a father figure is the one she's accused of harming. The pain of this truth is unbearable, and she breaks down in tears, unable to forgive herself for something she knows she never intended to do. She cries so emotionally, even the prison rats respectfully give her space. Suddenly, someone appears at her cell. It's a merchant named Sibaz. He calls out to her and takes her with him to a distant city called Elvrent, an ancient elven town. He tells her he brought her here because someone might be interested in buying her, and he wants to avoid drawing any more attention through further inspections. He adds that if any magic beasts show up along the way, he'll rely on her strength to protect them. During this journey, Erza encounters a young boy named Ars, kidnapped by goblins. She punts a goblin so hard, its ancestors feel it. She rescues him, and throughout the fight, one thought dominates her mind. She wants to atone, but she doesn't know how. As the battle ends, she hears someone thank her for the first time in ages. It's Kaku. He expresses his gratitude for saving Ars, but Erza replies with emptiness in her voice, explaining that thanks are wasted on her. She is a slave now. Ars stares at her like she just told him cookies are illegal. Back in the present, after defeating the dragon, Kaku surprises her with a proposal. He asks her to become the mother of his son. The words leave Erza frozen, struggling to comprehend what he just said. Kaku quickly becomes embarrassed, as if smoke is rising from his head in awkwardness. He's blushing so hard he could cook rice on his face. He tries to understand what he even meant himself and begins to fumble over his explanation. Before he can properly express himself, the merchant appears. The moment Erza sees him, she immediately recognizes him and speaks his name, Sebas. Kaku is startled. He never met Sebas personally and didn't realize this man was the same one. Sebas approaches them and, noticing Kaku holding Erza's hand, politely asks if he is disturbing anything. Kaku panics so fast he almost proposes again, to Sebas this time. They assure him that he's not. Sebas mentions how surprised he was to see the dragon defeated, assuming it was Erza's doing. But before she can correct him, Kaku jumps in with a long tale, enthusiastically recounting everything to cover the truth. Meanwhile, Erza begins to worry about the children, but Sebas reassures her he has already saved them. It becomes clear that the children are illegal, illegitimate slaves, trembling and crying from fear. Erza walks up to them, gently embracing them and assuring them that they are now safe. As she comforts them, Kaku stands back, silently watching her. Sebas explains that they will hand over the rescued children to the Holy Church through his subordinates. He then turns to Erza and inquires what she plans to do during this time. Addressing Kaku, Sebas also asks if he wants to buy Erza. Kaku nods and answers that he does, but first wants to clarify a few things. Introducing himself formally, he explains that he comes from the Ural Kingdom, located on the other side of the sea. He states his wish to make Erza the mother of Ars and his wife. She wonders if boldness is a Ural trait, or if Kaku just hit his head as a child. The reason, he says, is that her words and actions during their last encounter deeply impressed him, particularly the moment when she saved Ars' life. Kaku expresses that he wants to entrust Ars to someone he can truly rely on. He asks Erza to think about his proposal, not as a slave, but as an equal, asking if she would choose to become a strength for both him and Ars. Erza, however, refuses. Kaku looks like someone just told him swords are illegal. She reveals to him that she has committed a serious crime against His Majesty, a crime whose usual punishment is death. She doesn't want to be forgiven without atonement. In her eyes, she's unqualified to be anyone's mother. Kaku quietly accepts her refusal and apologizes for making such an unreasonable request. But Sebas seems to have something else in mind. Clearing his throat to gather their attention, he casually mentions that his ship and the port still need repairs, which will take some time. Erza immediately volunteers to help, but Sebas insists that she and Kaku should rest instead. He then hands some bandages to Kaku and leans in to whisper near his ear that this time he should give it his all. Kaku nods like a man receiving life advice from a raccoon in a business suit. Kaku leads Erza away, and they sit down together. He starts bandaging her injured feet, and while doing so, activates his devil eye. His intention is to see into Erza's true emotions. What he witnesses surprises him. Erza has been betrayed by someone very close to her, someone she had remained loyal to until the end. This betrayal is likely what drove her to reject him earlier. As Kaku processes this, he looks at her and reflects on how people usually spiral into despair after being betrayed. But not Erza. She remains composed, helping those around her. This quiet resilience only deepens his feelings for her. He feels drawn to her strength and affection. After finishing the bandaging, Kaku thanks Erza for taking care of Ars. At this point, Ars remains fast asleep. Erza looks at Kaku and realizes why she has started to trust him. It's because, once again, he has entrusted his child to her without hesitation. This silent trust touches her heart. Just as warmth begins to grow within her, the memory of her past betrayal suddenly resurfaces, and her heart closes up again. Kaku, not giving up, tries one more time. He recalls how Erza said she wasn't fit to be a mother, but tells her he doesn't believe that. He admits he doesn't know what crime she committed, but he's certain she must have saved many lives as well. Her protective instincts mattered to him. Even if she made mistakes, she just risked her life to protect the town. That kind of power, the one that protects others, is the strength he wants for both Ars and himself. Erza has no response. Then Kaku gently points out that she's already punishing herself, living as a slave, doing labor, accepting harsh treatment. But is that really what she wants as compensation? Would she truly choose to live like that forever? Suddenly overwhelmed, Erza begins to cry and screams in frustration. She demands to know what else she can do. Should she just give up her pride, pretend to be happy beside Kaku, and forget everything His Majesty meant to her? She says she can't even bring herself to express her true feelings to someone as strong as Kaku. Her voice rises sharply, and as if in response, a gust of wind passes through. Ars stirs awake. Erza immediately switches into a motherly mode, gently soothing Ars back to sleep. Kaku watches her and smiles. He tells her she was right, she is strong, but even he cannot take care of Ars the way she does. He isn't even good at changing diapers. He once tied one on backwards. Ars peed down his own armor. He confesses that once, when he got distracted, Ars was kidnapped, and that's why he doesn't want to raise the child alone. He asks for her help, not just for himself, but for Ars too. He adds that he wants to help her with her atonement as well, and then extends his hand to her, asking if she will accept his help. Erza's mind flashes back to a memory from her time with His Majesty at the orphanage. He had once told her that raising those children was his own form of atonement. For all the uncertain choices he had made in life, he warned her that a day would come when she too would have to dirty her hands for the country's sake. But in those moments, she must remember what truly matters. He believed her power existed for the future of those children. Remembering his words, Erza feels deeply moved. She resolves to carry His Majesty's will forward and vows to create a happy future for the children. Hearing this, Kaku smiles and holds out his hand again, telling her that their goals are aligned. He urges her to stand and join him to make Ars' life a joyful one. Erza hesitates, fear still lingering in her heart from the betrayal she endured. But Kaku gently grabs her hand and assures her that he won't betray her. He tells her not to worry, he will prove it. And Erza, watching him silently, wonders what Kaku plans to do now to prove those words. While Kaku and Erza are engaged in battle with the dragon, events unfold separately on the ship. Siva stands near the deck, watching the distant chaos through a scope when one of his attendants rushes to him in alarm. The servant insists they must leave immediately, urging Sebas not to pursue the girl. Despite the warning, Sebas calmly declares that he intends to follow her and firmly orders the ship's steering to be turned. The servant blinks like Sebas just said he's going to wrestle the dragon with his shoe. Confused and frightened, the servant questions his decision. He reminds Sebas that a dragon is rampaging nearby, and that the girl is merely an abnormal slave, certainly not worth the risk. But Sebas counters with quiet authority. He says that protecting that mere slave is part of their duty. As the ship's helm is turned according to his command, Sebas reveals an additional reason for his resolve. Before departing the palace, a certain individual had entrusted him with a specific instruction, to bring Erza back with dignity and respect. Now as Sebas peers through his scope again, he observes that the dragon has already descended close to the ground. Children are seen trapped and in danger near its path. Without hesitation, Sebas redirects the ship toward them, his mind set on their rescue. While Erza and Kaku sit quietly outside, tending to each other's wounds and exchanging heavy thoughts beneath the calm, a different storm brews within the heart of the town. Amidst the rubble and smoke, the old merchant, whose store had burned down earlier due to Arza's accidental sneeze, wanders the streets in search of understanding. His gaze locks onto the massive dragon's body, now lying motionless on the ground. A look of disbelief crosses his face. He wonders how such a powerful creature could fall so suddenly. He thinks about what happened earlier as he can make sense of it. He recalls when darkness descends before his eyes, as though the sky itself turns black. A rumble of thunder roars above, followed by the unmistakable sound of a devastating lightning strike. The merchant instinctively moves with the gathering crowd toward the impact site and arrives where he is now standing. As when he arrives, he sees it clearly. The dragon has truly been brought down. He stares, stunned. This couldn't have been the work of humans, he thinks. If not some freak natural disaster, then perhaps someone else has arrived, someone powerful. Before he can process more, noise erupts around the dragon's corpse. Merchants and townspeople begin to surround it, their eyes gleaming with greed. Each of the creature's scales, they say, is worth 10 gold coins. Chaos breaks out as many rush to claim their share, stripping the body for wealth. At that price, even the town cobbler is now a part-time dragon hunter. Driven by desperation to recover his losses, the old merchant runs toward the fallen dragon. He climbs onto it and raises his voice above the noise, demanding that everyone listen to him. When one of the other merchants questions his identity, he responds not with words but with steel. In a flash, he draws his sword and slashes the man's throat without hesitation. Blood spills across the dragon's hide. With eyes blazing and voice cold, the merchant declares himself Rudra, the Lion King. He announces that from this moment forward, he will rule the entire town. As the Lion King returns to power, he demands the townspeople submit to him. In return for their obedience, he promises work, shelter, and stability under his rule. Hence a new king has risen, one not of myth, but of blood and gold.
Here I am.